Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we're going to be checking out the entirety of an album by an act named Choze titled D.I.Y. And if we switch over to here, we do have the album on Spotify. Now I will be checking out a couple of YouTube videos, including for Badderz, the very first track. So they've got a YouTube channel as well if you want to see that. But anyways, I'm going to listen through each of these tracks from start to finish. I'm going to be doing half of this album review today and then the other half tomorrow, just so, you know, I keep my focus up, because you really got to concentrate when you do album reviews. So yeah, start to finish, how we think. Let's go, starting with Badderz. It's really pretty immediately with the synths.
The following story contains strong language that listeners may find compelling and professionally composed to educate critics who don't socialize in the poetic environment.
Damn. What a way to open. And it's just so much going on immediately. With the synths, the various instruments, the voiceovers, etc. It's impressive.
Choze, welcome. Step in this gully maze, repping my gully mates. Plotting the pinky pace, hustle hard, fuck the jakes. Serving the fiends, loving cake. Whether it's yay or serving flake. Giving that truth, classic tapes. Dash out the pagan Theresa May. Hurting with lies in our face. Pushing with promises, carrying no weight. Fraudulent deals, blatantly fake. Crushing our dreams, binding our brains. Stunning our dance wherever we slay. Blaming the innocent in every way. Blocking our roots, declining our pay. Degrading our sport, no medals to praise. So, P's up, ups down. Man them, I'm here now. P's up, ups down. Man them, I'm here now. P's up, ups down. Girl them, I'm here now. P's up, ups down. Do this, what now? Tripping on purple haze, sipping Courvoisier. Watching the snakes that prey, they keep clocking me. Cartier, devil wears 50 shades of grey. Taking off lingerie, traps laid out for pain. So rotten, like decay. Why they're killing our taste? Why they're stopping the rules that we make? Why can't we levitate? Leave us in peace, yeah, for heaven's sake. Cream of the crop, let me bake. Living my best life, let's get paid. Setting the scene in flames, girl them sugar, Nescafe. This is the real deal, homie. Claptown knows me. I never surrender, lose or slain. I bring in the heat that lose your rain. Morrison knows I mac the game. Full focus, my page. P's up, ups down. Man them, I'm here now. P's up, ups down. Girl them, I'm here now. P's up, ups down. Do this, I'm here now. P's up, ups down. It's Choze. What now?
I mean, I'm gonna go back a little bit. No, I feel the need to speak, because otherwise I'm just going to be sitting here nodding my head the entire time. Part of that is because, I mean, it sounds like commercial grade. It sounds like we're very comfortable with the way we've picked these different sounds and tones and textures within the arrangement, the accompaniment. The vocals are nice and present in the mix, and they're interesting to listen to as well. The video is very well produced, but I'm not as knowledgeable on video production, so I'm probably not going to comment on that too much. But it's a really great first impression. He's saying like P's up, ups down or something like that. I'm not sure what that means, but I think I'm getting parts of the other bit of the track, which is good. Just maybe a little bit of the slang is unfamiliar, and that's okay.
An SW9 resident, Mr. Ricardo Marinoni's enthusiasm and creativity produced the finest display of THUG motivation. His indestructible metaphors and prestige similes showed great demonstration and character towards his peers that he's
Choze. Skulls, show, let's roll. Take 2 totes, pass me the crow. Living on the edge, that's how we host. Brush that dirt off the shoulder, bro. If they hate on your style, that's how you know your whole purpose is to make pagans fold. Let's prepare for the folks. Roll up like a ghost. Southwest 9 is the code. Let's take over the globe.
Okay.
Squad music.
Oh, it's just finished. I'm so used to there being like outro cards and stuff like that in videos like this, but let's talk about it. I think the combination of the really tight percussion with that really thumping bass line, with the strings that we had, the bow, bow, that really simple motif with a lot of tension to it though. There were some DJ scratches and stuff like that alongside vocal chops. I mean, you heard all this. You heard all the things that were going inside there. That is an intense amount of attention to detail. It's not always easy to justify putting that many ingredients into the mix, especially within 3.5 minutes, but we managed to fit it in eloquently, and I think that Choze has demonstrated a couple of things. One, there were references like to taking over the world and like the fine sort of alcohol that he was drinking and everything like that. You get the impression that they're a person who's on the top of their game, successful, and they wanted to move forward with that. And talking about like their poetry and bars and everything like that, and the metaphors and stuff like that. It's good. I don't have any complaints about it. It was quite a dramatic sounding track. I'm hoping the rest of these songs in this album carry, again, a similar amount of attention to detail in order for this to remain stylistically cohesive and consistent. We got track number 2, Wake Up, featuring Choze, Corpz, and Barrington Levy.
Should I see me just a gallop like a horse I get whipped? Come quick, whoa. Take one sip. Should I see me just a gallop like a horse?
Oh, okay, we got some dubbish stuff going on.
In this concrete jungle where the dapper dons rumble. Don't sleep in us, mates, or your apple gets crumpled. In this concrete jungle where the dapper dons rumble. Don't sleep on us, mates, or your temple gets crumpled. A real bad boy Diddy can vouch for that. Too big for these small little youths that keep slip sliding on my DMs, begging to clash, but I'll block it, delete any spam gangsters that think that they're hotter than this Thundercat. Cause I'll light up you feel like a firework. Display or furthermore arcs, big shack, how it rings our way, so you better. In this concrete jungle where the dapper dons rumble. Don't sleep on us, mates, or your apple gets crumpled. In this concrete jungle where the dapper dons rumble. Don't sleep on us, mates, or your temple gets crumpled.
This is drill, right? I like the really fascinating kick lines with the rhythms. The ominous nature with the bells tolling for thee. It's 2 minutes, with Badderz apparently actually being 4:21, so I'm wondering if I listened to the single version rather than the album version, but still, nonetheless, I enjoyed my time with Badderz. Wake Up. They really come to the chase here. There's absolutely no filler whatsoever.
Just to change shit, take it all in my stride, now pacing. Say I'm headed for the clouds, that plane shit. More depth in the deep blue, take this. To another level, yeah, I'm hot in the game. 2 steps for the devil when you're looking for a star. Real shades with trouble like chips. Here we go again. In this concrete jungle where the dapper dons rumble. Don't sleep on us, mates, or your apple gets crumpled. In this concrete jungle where the dapper dons rumble. Don't sleep on us, mates, or your temple gets crumpled. Forget time wasters, I'm clocking this game without cheats. I'm faithful, don't need the snakes. My venomous vibes will rack your cage, so be prepared to all I suggest. Heard your track, I rehearsed the fact, I spit bars, no villain, guess I'm marveled that the art is back. Giving you an art attack from front to back. Think it's time that you wake up. In this concrete jungle where the
really short verses as well.
Don't sleep on us, mates, or your apple gets crumpled. In this concrete jungle where the dapper dons rumble. Don't sleep on us, mates, or your temple gets crumpled.
Nice use of vocal chops there as well. Yeah, no, that was stunning. That was a great use of time. I think that with Wake Up, I'm not sure if it was Corpz or Barrington Levy who rapped in the middle part there, because we had various verses, right? What I liked about this is that it showcases not only what Choze can do when he has like 3 or 4 minutes to sort of extend the theme and work around that and all the extra kind of voiceovers and everything like that, but it also shows what happens when we have just a really competent hook line mixed with a minimal amount of banter that kind of aligns with that hook to just kind of give you enough to hit back and then kind of keep nodding your head back to the refrain. And it's dope. It's nice. I think it's a really efficient use of time within this. The theme was competent enough, but we had very little adjustment of that accompaniment as we went along. I think that works well for the 2 minutes. If you've got a competent idea with like the vocal line on top as a sub layer, the bass, the drums, the bells, and the wow kind of synths, if that idea works for 2, then that's absolutely fine. There's no need to make it go for 4. I think that it kind of flows on nicely as a final note from Badderz, because we're talking about, not sleeping or else your temple is going to get crumbled, so wake up, no sleeping snakes, basically, or sleeping among the snakes. I'm not sure, but something along those lines. So I think when he was talking about wanting to move forward and kind of take over the world and everything like that beforehand, yeah, and wake up, they're doing that. We got Built for This with Choze and LionArt, track number 3. Great dynamic range. Not everything the same loudness.
Me brother. Yo, Choze, me want to tell you something. See you go down them lane there. You have to be careful. Cause they use their mother road still. Hey, yo, Lion, talk to them.
Mother road. Choze. LionArt, Black Lion. Skulls. Yeah.
Great use of sirens. Very tense.
This is all I do. You ain't ready. Trust me, you ain't ready. Blood, sweat and tears in this. Let's go. Let's bounce. The champ is here. Now when Joshua steps to the frontier, knocking out any person that throws spears. Chat shit, get banged till you flood tears. No jokes here. Keep your coast clear. Like a stampede's gunning for those who talk big but show fear. Cause it bores of blood that you're fake. Hitting when the lyrical bones of the brain breaks. MCs should chill like a spring break. Analyze the mistakes, no retake. Cause we'll cook you up like you flake or expose your weaknesses. Like Ricky Lake, we ain't got no time for games. Murking this till we make some change. A wall full of plaques in a house in Spain. So please don't try to roadblock my way. Cause you ain't built for this, bruv.
Okay. Cut to the chase.
You ain't built for this, cuz. Oh, them to move and go like a big guy. You ain't built for this, love. Me no play no game, we no in no ching bang. You ain't built for this mug. Cause we no in no fake a. We're living in a world full of sin when we do what
I mean, like, there's such drama and tension with the way the strings come in, the sirens, that build up at the start with the slow kind of rise into that first verse. You're not ready for this, like, going into the build for this part. It's stunning. This may be more conventional towards this genre, but I really want to become more familiar with it because it's really interesting stuff.
You ain't built for this mug. We're living in a world full of sin when we do what it takes to avoid these street pigs. Rebel to any lockdown that contemplates our process to win. Don't misbehave or else your face gets
nice little bit of vocal grit as well, a little bit of vocal fry.
Take my advice, best be safe, no fibbing or sniffing. Forget else, pure winning. Things to stand up, you're slipping. Terminate your verses. Stop spitting, survive on the fittest. Lyrics, spun gimmicks, flow through your borders. Forget shipping, grind till we stack packs. F fame, smoke till we fly high all day.
Big and we bad, beat with chest like King Kong. When we come through, everybody happy sing song. Hashtag big tune, everybody follow this one. Don't know the thing, LionArt and Choze and Big Down.
Like insane in the membrane, call them boy they ain't built for the game. We be up in the mainframe, kick up the door and tell them to make way.
That's spoke from a chest plate. When we talk about the things we don't move, we know that way. When we call me name, just make sure they grab more grave.
There's a nice call and response there. A bit of chemistry between the two of them. It's just really pleasant to listen to. It's great that Choze is like teaming up with collaborators where he feels comfortable doing stuff like that with them. It's fantastic.
Just make sure they grab more grave.
You ain't built for this, bruv.
Oh, them to move and go like big man.
You ain't built for this, cuz.
Oh, them to move and go like a big guy.
You ain't built for this, love.
Me no play no game, we no in no ching bang.
You ain't built for this mug.
Cause we no in no fake a.
We're living in a world full of sin when we do what it takes to avoid these street pigs. Rebel to any lockdown that contemplates our process to win. Don't misbehave or else your face gets caved. Words that easily cause a massacre. Take my advice, best be safe. No fibbing or sniffing. Forget else, pure winning. Things to stand up, you're slipping. Terminate your verses, stop spitting. Survive on the fittest. Lyrics, spun gimmicks, flow through your borders. Forget shipping, grind till we stack packs. F fame, smoke till we fly high all day. Time waits for no man, even if you take out battery or sand. You have to make a choice whether it's a cost, fam. Don't be a waste, please grab it with both hands. No, you ain't built, fam. It's lyrics to the sleepless nights and tinnitus. Illusional thoughts give me itis, but I keep on spitting till I get bronchitis. Blood, sweat and beers, plotting on the stairs so we can escape this affair. Mom C fully proud of me, cause I finally provide her groceries. Drop a few bags for her shopping spree. Put a smile in the face every time she sees a son on stage with his heart on the beat. So please don't try to contest with me, cause you ain't built for this.
I wasn't expecting that to be another entire verse. There's so much content within that space of 4 minutes. there's so much going on, and I appreciate that. We're not just kind of sleeping on a motif with the same instruments layered on top. We're switching it up. The approach is different between the various musicians and performers involved. It's engaging because there's variety.
You ain't built for this, cuz. You ain't built for this, love.
We don't play no game, we no in no ching bang.
You ain't built for this, mug.
Cause we no in no fake a done. You know like that, you know like that. Them not ready yet, them not ready yet.
Holy crap, it just flew by, didn't it? This is a really strong album. I'm really happy to be able to review it. It's not often that I get an album where I listen to it and I don't just have a good time with it, I have a great time with it. I am genuinely infatuated with a lot of what's going on within this. It's really important when you hear a track to not only understand the story. Like, I think the track was them talking about how the person now are discussing wasn't ready for this, they weren't built for this. Maybe not just the song, but sort of like the lifestyle that they're discussing, the environment, the situation where they're trying to get involved in. Maybe this is to another rapper or something like that. But it's also just the mood of it, how heavy it is, despite a lot of the elements which it necessarily makes like heavy. Like, there are sub drops, but there's a hollowness and emptiness to like the way things open. Like you've been kind of gut punched. It's wild, it's brutal, man. But I love it. I think that the tonal differences between the different vocalists here, LionArt and Choze, were really obvious here, and that's why it worked. You could clearly hear who is who here. And I think that as long as both musicians suit the general atmosphere and way things are made up, they sort of suit the mood, then you've got yourself an absolute banger when it comes to collaborations here. They're both competent vocalists, very comfortable on the mic, and there's good polish to it. And it just, again, it sounds commercial grade. We've got drug music with Choze and Skibadee. Choze and Skibadee. Track number 4. Oh, liquid drum bass. It's interesting with that kind of glitch, distorted kind of stuff.
Hey yo, it's your boy Skibadee, rolling through with the one and only Choze. Storming the master, storming the crew. Deal with the matter, deal with it proper. Level, let's go!
Maverick, soldiers, this the way for addiction reign. Prepare yourselves, we're about to dominate every addiction lane. With certain patterns involved with sound waves that will simulate your brain. Brain.
Drop music.
This is the sound of the streets. Blood in the place with the heat. This is the sound of the streets. Blood in the place with the heat.
Excuse my ignorance, is this like grime? It's that's the genre that's coming to mind. The style here with the breakbeats, with the filtering on the hi-hats, and then like that really kind of, they're filthy oscillator, the synth, man. It's such a cool sound though, and Choze suits sort of rapping on top of it so well. It's great clarity to the pipes.
This is not grinds, no Babylon's gonna change my mind. Dust my 9, break every violation in sight. Draw the pipeline, make sure CDs crack the front line. Sell just like potent trees, cause it feels like Hercules. Spread the disease that will ship from overseas. This is the sound of the streets, blood in the place with the heat. And even Babylon accepted your greatest defeat. Stone cold, bigger the bold, this is how the story unfolds. 10 back, school to connect, tell them it's time to invest. We got the package that will make everyone feel in the sweat. So please don't try to contest, or else get placed in the mess. Side effects could be extreme, so be careful, bitch.
Drop music.
Great shit.
Music. International flows, man. Drop music. Drop music. Say what, blood? Drop music. Drop music. Drop music.
This is the way that we ride for.
Drop music. International flows, man. Drop music.
This is the way that we die for.
Drop music. Say what, blood? See no, he no evil, no. Come back by default. I'm back on the road, you know, back on the road like Finding Nemo. Put out the leader, put out the leader. That's me, bro. Don't come with the ego. Don't know about you, I know about me, bro. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Back to the 0. Bangers and mash, you'll get smashed. I'll take your cash to the dealer. Ratter, get shatter. I come to deal with the matter. Skip it the back, up it with the man. The man, lumber, your dog, the lumber, your ragger. Drop music. Drop music. International flows, man. Drop music. Say what, blood? Drop music. Drop music. Drop music.
This is the way that we ride for.
International flows, man.
This is the way that we die for.
Say what, blood?
Listen, music addicts, if you starve this, you can have it. We supply demand, every sound that really truly max it. Lash it, grab it, fully attack it, so don't even try to relax it. Cause it's in the air and we don't fucking care. And a caution, if you live by the drum, you die by the bass. So be careful when you step in the place. Full of pain, sparkling taste, lacing your brain, murking your face. Choze, Skibadee, this is the recipe and it's cool.
It's so different to what we've had previously, isn't it? I like that we're flexible with the styles of music that we're doing within this album. I appreciate that. You get a wider audience that way, I suppose, you know? As long as this thing's running it together.
This is the way that we ride for.
International flows, man.
This is the way that we die for.
Say what, blood? Ho, 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 ho. Gee! That's right, fam. Still on this thing, blood. Jungle. Original.
Jungle. Jungle. What am I talking about? Jungle. Of course.
You don't know. Going out to all the stamina master, keeping it moving, blood. Choze. Your boy Skibadee. Going out to all the man them on the roads. Yeah, you don't know it's cold. Let's go, fam. Gee!
Careful, 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 careful.
Jungle, 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 jungle. No, 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 no.
Careful, 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 careful.
Jungle, 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 jungle. No, 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 no.
How do I describe this? This music, I'm trying to figure out what we mean by drug music. Is it that this is the kind of music like is that a good thing? Is the drug music, are the drugs involved with the type of music that we're making? Is that it? Is it like a metaphor for something? I'm not sure whether to take it literally or not. When I was listening to the verse parts, I think this track seems like more of an opportunity for Choze and Skibadee to kind of riff on something together in a genre that they also like to play around with. I think that there was a lot to appreciate. It was a phenomenally interesting composition there. A lot of really interesting sounds, some of the synth parts there, the freshness of those drum grooves there. Just that synth, that oscillator burning against the cans, man. It's great. It's feisty, it's fiery. I think that my understanding of it is that theme there that we had near the end, kind of repeating and kind of looping, it's catchy as hell. I think that it's more of a kind of, I suppose the way that I would imagine you'd kind of be treating that is you'd listen to it and the music would sort of surround you as opposed to you really needing to actively follow along to it. It's great for Choze to be showing more of the styles of music that they're into. I think that Skibadee, this is a genre that they may be more familiar with, not than Choze, but I mean just like this is Skibadee's kind of genre. They're perhaps their bread and butter, so they enjoy making it and they enjoy playing it. And ultimately, I think that it worked for the genre itself. Am I a massive fan of this style of music itself? You know, I think that I can appreciate the work that was put into it from a music production perspective, so therefore I can still review it. I think that there was enough variety within the composition across 4.5 minutes to justify it being engaging for the majority of people. I think if you hadn't had as much range with the way things are being played, things coming up or down, like if you had repeated those drum loops like maybe 2 or 4 many more times than that, it would have maybe lost its power and engage. But you know what I mean? It's just I think they knew the amount to have of each thing individually, and it worked well. And I am now going to listen to a bit more jungle and grime and just kind of like sink my teeth into it to really kind of hear the differences and nuances there. But finally, we have a D.I.Y Interlude there with Choze, which I assume goes into the track Choze.
D. Why? In a system which fabricates us to be boxed in, surrounded by screws like a prison, subliminally drilling screws in us for us to get screwed in this system, mentally wired to becoming working slave victims, plastering thoughts that there's no solutions, until we discover our tools like manuscripts to create our own shifts, to forklift the obstacles that stops us to running our own businesses, independent fortresses that makes us even more proud of our own accomplishments. Other interests to increase our interest is interesting, but I won't be a soul trader, even though I am a soul trader. So don't paint me with the same brush as a slaver. Ryan's can get aired, my limits to reach the sky like a scraper. You are your own paver, you are your own savior. There are ladders and steps to create these shelves, but note to self, you can do it yourself.
But note to self, you can do it yourself. I think that's a powerful thing to have halfway through, because with the album, of course, being DIY, with Badderz and Wake Up and Built for This and then Drug Music, I suppose, it shows their ability as a rapper, as a producer, as an act, as a collaborator. And I suppose they're speaking about their own sort of philosophical viewpoints on the world that they live in there, you know, like, which is stuff that I think a lot of people would be able to relate to, you know, like the concept of feeling like they're built inside a prison, getting screwed in so that they can kind of like, you know, and the working class, etc., and all those sorts of things, and the need to really kind of try and find a way to do it ourselves, because even though it may seem difficult, it's not impossible. I think that's something that a lot of people will find inspiration in. Choze is good with words, very good with words. It's poetry, and through what I've had so far in the album, I appreciate the effort put into telling a story that's compelling, honest, and actually, you know, genuinely interesting to listen to. It's nice to have that range there. You don't always get that. But I think the strings, the synths, whatever he had going around in the background is kind of an accompaniment to the voiceover, or like the thoughts that Choze was doing, the monologue there, made it so that you could have like a pause at the halfway point of the album to kind of take it all in and sort of like figure out how you're going to DIY throughout the rest of the album and the rest of your life. But yeah, it was a nice ambient situation we had there. We now have the track DIY with Choze and Shai Sevin. Let's go.
Choze. Renzo. See, in this game, I only believe in one philosophy, and that's D.I.Y. Let's go. D.I.Y. to the day I die. D.I.Y. to the day I die.
How we got lyrics?
Murky with ease for the piece of the pie. Do it for the streets, do it for the souls. Blood of a slave, shutting down shows. Do it with your heart with no strings attached. So the man them scream out, walk one show. D.I.Y. to the day I die. D.I.Y. to the day I die. D.I.Y. to the day I die. Murky with ease for the piece of the pie. Do it for the streets, do it for the souls. Blood of a slave, shutting down shows. Do it with your heart with no strings attached. So the gal them scream out, walk one show. This black star's ready to enforce street domination that kicks off with force. Fully composed with lead. All sorts word to the blind, don't play or get scorched.
I do appreciate when people put like the lyrics in the songs on Spotify. Thank you for doing that. I don't think it's a necessary thing, especially if your production and your vocals are done well, but it's nonetheless helpful to be able to read as you go.
Come to bust any wall that prevents C. Shelling down legal clubs, it's a must that you set free. My poems that make doubters fully trust it was all a dream. Get mentioned in Rewind magazine. Spotlight interviews with the flavor team. I love life courting, he's unique. That's why I stayed on my grind. 9 till 5, then 7 till 3, cause I don't believe in handouts or slavery. If anyone's gonna get in, it's me. D.I.Y. to the day I die. D.I.Y. to the day I die. D.I.Y. to the day I die. Murky with ease for the piece of the pie. Do it for the streets, do it for the souls. Blood of a slave, shutting down shows. Do it with your heart with no strings attached. So the man them scream out, walk one show. D.I.Y. to the day I die. D.I.Y. to the day I die. D.I.Y. to the day I die. Murky with ease for the piece of the pie. Do it for the streets, do it for the souls. Blood of a slave, shutting down shows. Do it with your heart with no strings attached. So the gal them scream out, walk one show.
I mean, like the lady backing vocals they had there with the vibrato in combination with the da-da-da-da-da-da, those cascading arpeggios, with the brum-brum-brum-brum, with the 16th note grooves on the drums, with the whole tone notes on the bass, supporting the chord progressions there with a relatively simple bass line there of 2 notes, but it's still so effective. There's just so much interesting stuff going along that even if you're not paying attention to the vocals, you can appreciate the song regardless for the instrumental parts a lot.
Vultures wanna have a slice of my natural ability caused by jealousy, cause they heard that I dap your odds without brokers or drug machines. Conspiracy theories break out the ones that call frenemies, point out the ones that keep tapping me, so they copy my blueprint but blackball me gradually. How ironic, these pagans are shabby and toxic, like poison ivy with a rocket, trying to tarnish my concrete skin post, empty pockets, but I'm so sonic, collecting these souls in the process, no piggyback inside, trying to stack out my dream. If anyone's gonna rap this, it's me. D.I.Y to the day I die, D.I.Y to the day I die, D.I.Y to the day I die. Murder with ease for the piece of the pie, do it for the streets, do it for the souls. Blood of a slave, shut down shows, do it with your heart with no strings attached, so the man them scream out wagwan show. D.I.Y to the day I die, D.I.Y to the day I die, D.I.Y to the day I die. Murder with ease for the piece of the pie, do it for the streets, do it for the souls. Blood of a slave, shut down shows, do it with your heart with no strings attached, so the gal them scream out wagwan show. D.I.Y to the day I die, self-manufactured, magnified, rep for the man at SW9. Charades can't blind me, see the signs. Don't try to exploit me, I'm way too wise. I've been doing this thing since golden night. I got targets that will reach the by to put me on the high, and I'll poltergeist, right? You know.
Shout out for simply having the bass not exist for a moment, for allowing there to be that change in the way the perceived loudness works, and in this frequency spectrum there, to allow things to float a bit. It's just a nice, easy way of changing things up. It's good.
Because I've been demolished by lies, ex-managers, crooks in disguise, daylight robbery on the sly. That's why I thank God for giving me a banjo and the mind to crack this code and sell hits on my own. Never sell my soul for the P. If anyone's gonna get in, it's me. D.I.Y to the day I die, D.I.Y to the day I die, D.I.Y to the day I die. Mercury.
Oh, is it pounds? Never sell my soul for the P. If anyone is going to get in, it's me. Is that like pounds? Because I know that Choze is located in the UK, so I'm wondering if that's it.
Piece of the pie, do it for the streets, do it for the souls. Blood of a slave, shutting down shows. Do it with your heart with no strings attached, so the man them scream out wagwan show. D.I.Y to the day I die, D.I.Y to the day I die.
So that's 3 verses now with choruses.
Mercury ease for the piece of the pie, do it for the streets, do it for the souls. Blood of a slave, shutting down shows. Do it with your heart with no strings attached, so the gal them scream out wagwan show.
No handouts, ain't nobody helping me. I did it on my own, it's plain to see. Cause I'm grown, believe. I've been through all these things, some shit you've never seen. That's why I'm showing you my vision. I kept some riding, swear you won't believe. Blood, sweat and tears until my bones go weak. Cause I'm grown, believe. I've been through all these things, some shit you've never seen. That's why I'm showing you my vision.
D.I.Y to the day I die, D.I.Y to the day I die, D.I.Y to the day I die. Mercury with ease for the piece of the pie, do it for the streets, do it for the souls. Blood of the slave, Mercury now shows. Do it with your heart with no strings attached, so the man them scream out wagwan show.
Oh, nice use of those fuzzy synths to sequence out. Cool, man. Okay, so let's just talk about this before I take a break for today and return for the rest of the album tomorrow. I think that this track, what it was about talking about how important it is to not just do it yourself, but also it talked about Choze's journey, the various bits of acclaim they had, but up until this point, you know, dealing with like the flavor and the radio stations and DJs and getting praise from them, but also having to deal with like crooked managers and stuff like that, which obviously isn't pleasant. In fact, it's an understatement to say it's unpleasant. You know, you can get screwed over by managers if they take advantage. It sucks. And so I completely understand why Choze wants to do it on his own. I think that he's got the bars and the capacity to be able to do that. I think that he rapped incredibly well on this. The vulnerability, exposing himself a little bit past the kind of fronting that we did earlier, talking about like what we're going to do and like the state of our level of everything like that. I think that it's great to get both sides to understand maybe the mistakes, or not the mistakes we've made, but the things we've gone through internally to be able to get to the point we are today. It's great. It makes it more relatable and helps you to sort of understand Choze a bit better. But Shai Sevin was just a lovely foil there with the color, the melody of those vocals at the end. It was a nice way to finish the track. I think that if we had rapped, it would have been better to have had maybe Shai in the middle verse and then Choze to have gone at the end, but because it was a different kind of timbre, texture, a different type of sound, you can have that as an outro thing, indicate to the listeners that something's about to occur, or things are maybe coming to an end, and then you have the synth fade out there with the sequences. I think all in all, it's nice as well to kind of have Shai Sevin talk about the things that they've seen and stuff like that to indicate that not only is it maybe that other artists have also gone through similar situations that Choze has, but it's also about understanding that, you know, it's not only possible for you to find success on your own, but also it's important for you to look out for those opportunities and also those risks and dangers and stuff like that, and take care of yourself. As being a musician can be incredibly tough, and you just got to do the best you can with the conditions as they are, you know. To went like the 9 to 5 to the 7 to 3 is brutal though, but it just shows the hard work that musicians like Choze and stuff like that are putting into their tunes. So I've had a great time with the album so far. I didn't really speak about the music too much in this. I think that I want to sort of save stuff for the conclusion, but my halfway thoughts on this album are that effectively it's an incredibly efficient way to get to know Choze. It's also a great way to hear his capacity as a rapper, a performer, a storyteller, especially with the D.I.Y Interlude. And just, he's got great range across a variety of different genres. It's great to be flexible like that. It's fantastic collaborations, and I'm excited for what happened next. So, see you tomorrow. And we're back. It's day 2 recording this album review. We're going to be listening through the remaining 5 tracks off of this album, D.I.Y from Choze. We got Nothing to Lose all the way through to You. So I've got my camera. Can't see the screen behind the camera. So I'm going to listen through the rest of these tracks from start till finish. Hear what you think. Let's go. What do we got? Nothing to Lose. Oh, nice bit of brass in there for a solo texture. Some interesting oscillations and panning in the automation of the...
A survivor since birth, bless all the innocent, trapped with a curse. No raw opportunities given, which turns our happiness into hurt. Burnt in the brain, torn in the soul, confidence dies, critical shrugs, but watch no face, cause we're chosen to wipe out any negativity. So no, my words to you, I write for you. It's strange when we stats for a clear review. It's a must that we read before dreams. Living in these streets, we ain't got nothing to lose. My words to you, I write for you. It's strange when we spaz for a clear review. It's a must that we read before dreams. Living in these streets, we ain't got nothing to lose. So fine.
I mean, like, it's so classy again with those brasses coming in the second half of that verse section there. Then it's a ba 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 ba. It's such a simple melodic concept, but it effortlessly integrates with everything else. And I think that Choze's bars on top of it are great, with the combination of the bass, the drums, and everything else going on there with the kind of quirky synths. It's a good... Nice.
The illest, like medical patients, hiding in trenches, avoiding sledgehammers of abuse. Whether it's the snakes or the boys in blue, kicking off the hinges, strapped with a Mac for the riches, searching for their bonus points, like they want to marry these O's in a place where fucks don't propose. Instead, they want to throw those elbows against us pirates like Sparrow, leading the whole team to get jacked with an incentive to feed their wolf pack, scavenging all types of plates, whether it's a 2 and a Q or raw steak, but never did the research properly. Like us brothers won't show no mercy, cause World War III's on the rise, whether in Paris or SW9, and the looting demonstration was a sign so clearly. Now we can never be blind or deaf when we hear politics trying to place politics, trying to place us in fear. So let me be clear, if you want to play us, gonna get deep cuts like Premiere. So my words to you, I write for you. It's strange when we spaz for a clear review. It's a must that we read before dreams. Living in these streets, we ain't got nothing to lose. Making me fully switch like a light bulb, knocking our lights out, leaving us out cold. Lies about developing homes from really, they want to strike out gold. Beats as they stand, do what it takes. Payments go up in cancelous states, taxes increase in every other way. How did they expect us hustlers to save? Catch 22, we're trapping in a system that traps us like a victim, showing no clues, so we're digging for answers and depending on Google. Information is powerful and it certainly becomes tactical, so we have to counteract by any means, whether it's debates or hounding the police, cause clinically we're out here searching for results, finding out the truth, how to wipe out this disease, and it's Armageddon if we don't proceed. So we're taking in responsibilities, demonstrating marches that scare the truth, shouting out wild statements we received, empty promises, so now we have to speak.
Empty promises, now we have to speak. I like that it's a little more affronting and talks a wider concept, how we as a people, you know, we've got nothing to lose. It's taking a sort of a departure from a lot of the songs we've had previously in the album, where it's been more from Choze or the collaborators' perspective. And it's a grander thing. And I think it works well after D.I.Y with the discussion where, you know, if you want to do it on your own, it's probably better that you can do it that way, and it's possible to do so. So I like that. Yeah, I think that's good lyrically.
For you, I write for you. It's strange when we spaz for a clear review. It's a must that we read before dreams. Living in these streets, we ain't got nothing to lose. Too much hate, not enough love. Consequences we suffer, acting tough, showing no remorse. We'll eventually test our egos and calling out our bluffs. Like a game of casino war, we know who's flaky and who can settle the score. Even at a point when it really comes to showing their cards when they witness the 4-4. An addiction that they crave for. Wanna be bad man straight down to the core. But when you're in a box, flowers on top, surrounded by fam and the rain pours, how you gonna fully show your trophy cabinet or how you tripled your rate score? No turning back, your low style. Damn, I can't take this anymore. Cause we worship a vanity religion, which leads us to a field of depression. Fools by peer pressure in the second. Rather support Louboutins than the Christian. Pushing daredevils to be a kingpin, holding more dots than a Dalmatian. Ready to supply like a medication so they can wrap up fully in snake skin. My words to you, I write for you. It's strange when we spaz for a clear review. It's a must that we read before dreams. Living in these streets, we ain't got nothing to lose. In the land of the Jakes.
I mean, it's nice to have that short hook with the nothing to lose part, with the double tracked vocals, as well as the hit of like the sub drop or something we have there. It's powerful going back into the main line.
Stand while we rebel, but we can't be clutching in cells, waiting for bell, repeating the same cycle in full scale. Bothers me to see the potential that we waste, rather than invest in time, money that makes essential profits that puts us in place. Instead, we're giving away champagne bottles to female strangers, but won't give the same amount of value to the woman that went through labor. So stupid, lost in a trap, keep getting robbed by a gold digging rat. Solutions that seek for change, follow my lead and the words that I say. Cause my words to you, I write for you. It's strange when we spaz for a clear review. It's a must that we read before dreams. Living in these streets, we ain't got nothing to lose. My words to you, I write for you. It's strange when we spaz for a clear review. It's a must that we read before dreams. Living in these streets, we ain't got nothing to lose. My words to you, I write for you. It's strange when we spaz for a clear review. It's a must that we read before dreams. Living in these streets, we ain't got nothing to lose.
Living in the streets, we ain't got nothing to lose. I think it's very sobering. You know, there's a lot of political and sociological discussion there. We'll give champagne bottles to people who don't necessarily deserve them, whilst not giving benefit, or like, not, what I mean benefit is, by not trying to help out people who, you know, are sort of, you know, mothers who were newborns, or, you know, we're just struggling to put the help in the right place, and it seems unjustified how the tables are set at the moment. I think it's a really important discussion to be had with like the difference between like people, you know, like I suppose he talks about people on the streets and people up in the high rises and stuff like that, the comparison between the two. I know it's not necessarily that simple, but I think there'll be a lot of people who listen to this and can kind of go, yeah, no, I agree that things aren't being done the right way with the people that we vote for, or the way that people treat each other, or even what societal expectations are, you know, like what our communities, how our communities are created, our belief systems, etc. You know, I can understand. I think it's a good thing to talk about here. I appreciate that we had a lot of different verses here with slight variations on the instrumental sections, but I think this is more of a through composed piece, which Choze had the opportunity to tell a longer form story over a longer period of time, and every single word counted, you know. And we've got a lot of other instruments that we featured in previous parts of the album here, but the brass was a highlight for me. I really appreciated that inclusion there. There is an understanding there as a final note on when we need to include certain sounds and when it's just less appropriate to do so. And I like the fact that we are choosing the correct templates per part, per theme, per song. We've got I Apologise, track number 8. So there's a few solo ones from Choze, with most of the ones so far being collaborations.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thy is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
I apologise for forcing those tears through your kind eyes, breaking promises that were customized, hoping the mistakes that I made will make it turn a blind eye. I apologise for hurting close ones with false minds. No intentions were pursued to rectify what relationships would live or die. I apologise for forcing those tears through your kind eyes, breaking promises that were customized, hoping the mistakes that I made will make it turn a blind eye. I apologise. I apologise. I apologise. I apologise. Yes.
I think the prayer opening with the vocal chops there, the general sort of like, how do I describe it? it sounded like we were going to get into something bigger, even if things were very quiet with the vocals, kind of misty in the ether. It's like it's a moment where Choze is being more open about mistakes that he's made. It's an admission, maybe breaking the fourth wall, trying to directly appeal to the listener or someone that he's written the song about. And after Nothing to Lose, I think it's good we're discussing this, because it's all well and good to throw stones from a glass house, but if you're unable to look at what you're doing and examine what your effect on the world is, it can seem like a bit of a double standard. So I appreciate the fact that Choze is being honest about his own part of the world and where he stands, and I think just a combination of that plus a really sick sounding 808 bass there with those really interesting vocal chops is almost a synthesis layer there with the drums nice and tight with an interesting groove. It's a nice combination of elements.
At these crossroads, I decide to apologise to the peeps that are murked inside. Whether it's my day ones or civilians I met a few times, sending my condolences. Even if they're still alive, beg for forgiveness, mortal fight. Hope to see eye to eye, cause tomorrow could be my deadline. I apologise for forcing those tears through your kind eyes, breaking promises that were customised, breaking the mistakes that I made will make it turn a blind eye. I apologise. I apologise. I apologise, I apologise, yes, yes, my apologies, especially dedicated wifeys. Didn't mean to bring harm like pain, devastating moments that will paralyse your emotions. Arguments that will turn our concrete bond into a degradable motion. Pre-relations and still a lonely king, cause I strive to win a rap token. I apologise for forcing those tears through your kind eyes, breaking promises that were customised, hoping the mistakes that I made will make it turn a blind eye. I apologise, I apologise. I apologise, I apologise, yes, yes. I apologise to my childhood love, familiar, Mundi, Ampa, even Mensa, for not attending your children's birthdays, not even the card. So I take acceptable reasons why we fell apart. Don't want to dig too deep or why we lost connections to how we came to this. It's in the past. I apologise for forcing those tears through your kind eyes, breaking promises that were customised, hoping the mistakes that I made will make it turn a blind eye. I apologise, I apologise. I apologise, I apologise, yes, yes. The truth is, I want to apologise. Dissect to dissolve compulsive lies, erase the bad-minded thoughts like Hannibal, taking revenge on these parasites. Pointless means to go to jealous types. Dead all beefs, I've got bigger fish to fry. Bundled the force in moments that force me to be recluse, treaded the ice. So I apologise to my ride or die mum, dad for holding a grudge. Brothers and sisters, aunties and uncles, focus more on work than family love. Friends that I cutted so deep, especially Mr. Arga, forgive me. Even Banjo for having that one-time fight that resulted in pure agony. I apologise. I apologise. I apologise.
That was kind of like the heartbeat in with the drums and the choir. I think that the way that it was done instrumentally was great. The ABAB structure to the verse chorus parts was good. The interlude kind of outro thing where it was more acknowledging everyone in his life that he apologizes. The tone of voice with the way that we said I apologize, it's in two minds. I think that we sounded like we were apologetic for some of the mistakes that we'd done or that we made, but we were also sick of having to apologize, as if we'd already gone all over these things in our head. It just looped. It was almost in a sense of exasperation that we seemed to be communicating within the way that I apologize with the repeats and stuff on the sides of the stereo field. I think that's interesting, because I suppose you can get to a point where you can only be so sorry before there's nothing you can really do beyond that and you've got to move on. But for some people, you can never apologize enough and it never will be enough. So it's a balancing act, I suppose. It was interesting that we talked about a previous relationship that fell apart, as well as people in his family considering wealth being more important than family love. It's that sounds tragic, but it seems like it's real, and I appreciate that nonetheless. Thank you to Choze for being open about that. We've got last ones left after this. Number 9. Nice radio filter there.
Yeah.
I like these filtered
This is a
intros.
hit, not a pop song. Remember that. We're the last ones left. We're the last ones left. We're the last ones left. Yeah. We're the last ones left. We're the last ones left. We're the last ones left. Question. What's your aim in this music game? Are you in it for the art that saves? Or you in it for the German whips, the rocks and the fame? Question, what's your plan when your tune calls flames? Would you help to provide your fam? Or spend it on a chick that wants to know more on your name? Answers, I keep seeking raw peak ones. I can't tell whose heart's in it. Respect or image, polluted scene, copy style gimmicks, spitting with no substance given. Peer pressure got to suit them sinning, to portray themselves hard hitting. Let's hope this lyrical era won't give in. Cause we're the last ones left.
Nice, use a double track. Good job.
We're the last ones left. Spray with your heart, say with your chest. We're the last ones left.
Spray with your heart, say with your chest. That's a cool line, if I had that correct.
We're the last ones left. We're the last ones left. Hail up the enemies, there's none left. Question, what's your purpose? Elaborate, please. I'm confused, you're rolling the scene. Are you in it for the platinum checks or the diamond piece? Question, what's your passion that you strive for? To become a celebrity whore, or to produce infinite hits for fiends to endorse? Answers, your art form is weak, not raw. I can tell how your flow ain't pure. Performance ain't cutting it, stage presence is poor. Lyrical content sounds like it was written by a ghostwriter at age 4. When you record, you sound so bored. Forfeit the mic or else get floored. Curse. We're the last ones left. We're the last ones left. We're the last ones left. Spray with your heart, say with your chest. We're the last ones left. We're the last ones left. We're the last ones left. Tail up the enemies, there's none left.
I like the fact that we're not typically... I think we are going to do a double chorus at this point, but we didn't last time. We adjust the number of repetitions of a chorus to not make it as predictable for the listener. It's good. Sometimes a short chorus works well. Sometimes a longer one can be good if you can pull it off later on.
Left. Last one's left. We're the last ones left. Last one's left. We're the last ones left.
With the repetition of the hook line.
Who's best? We're the last ones left. Last ones left. We're the last ones left. Last ones left. We're the last ones left. Lyrics for lyrics come. Who's next? Listen. Wanna be bad boy CB4 flexing with a bait toy, posing with chicks, then send them higher money to Koch like a playboy. Your demeanor's pants like a waste boy, copycat delusional bellboy. Stop living that Final Fantasy Game Boy. Take notes and act your wage boy. Spectators feed upon those who chat nonsense, blurting that fake noise. Run out your dead's career. Bait bots, fake blogs, no sacrifices were made. Catting for the picking not worthy of Bitcoin. Try to crush the market with your versions of melodies. Face it, you're moist. I speak for myself and those who rep the religion of hardcore lyricism. Shakespeare quotes, cipher driven, 24/7 produced rhythms. Don't take it for granted, keep grinding for the accolades that will glisten. So listen, I'll be pen game and make sure they put some respect on your name. We're the last ones left. We're the last.
I have to admit, I do really appreciate the wordplay we've had throughout this album. I think that anyone who's listened to this can clearly tell that Choze has both a really fundamental understanding of storytelling as well as a really wide vocabulary, and the wordplay, the metaphors and figurative, like all that kind of stuff, all the boxes are ticked. And that does help in this specific style of music especially.
We're the last ones left. We're the last ones left. We're the last ones left. Hail up the enemies, there's none left. We're the last ones left. Last ones left. We're the last ones left. Last ones left. We're the last ones left. Merc for the calls, show who's best. We're the last ones left. Last ones left. We're the last ones left. Last ones left. We're the last ones left. Lyrics for lyrics come. Who's next? Yo, this is not an attack. We just got more finesse.
Great adjustment of that synth layer there.
We put our mind, body, and soul into this. We don't take it for granted. So big up to each and every one of you. That keeps you 100. Believe that.
Yeah, that's a hell of a sick synth. I'm wondering how he made that. Because obviously you'd have like an LFO with a swing groove on it. There's a swing groove on that. 1E into 2E into 3E into 4E. So like a 16th like rotation on the oscillator there with the swing triplet kind of vibe there. And must have wide stereo pan that to the sides. And there's like a sub bass resonance to that. So there must have been like 2 or something, but like a polyphonic synth. That's fascinating. That's probably one of my favorite synth sounds I've heard in quite a while. I'm familiar with like the 808s as well as, obviously, like the synth pads, traditional ones, sequences, arpeggiators, etc., stabs. But it's kind of nice to hear like an almost like dubsteppy synth, but like used in a way where it's not just wub-wubs. I mean, I like my dubstep, don't get me wrong, but just like for that mid to high range there, kind of like how do I describe it? It would have sounded great as just a constant whole note, but the oscillations kind of make it groovy and work well with the percussion and drums. Percussion and bass, should I say. But the story, I think, for, you know, last one's left, is that, you know, we're the real ones, you're not. Basically, he was comparing the other person who's talking to, like, their career and all this kind of fake stuff, you know, like asking them questions and then answering them themselves and stuff like that, as if he already knows the kind of game that the other person is playing. That is complete BS. Yeah, like an interview, you know, it's nice to be able to sort of like eloquently and, you know, tell the other person why you think that their stuff isn't real, but then not to phrase it and give it extra context in a way that doesn't just seem like it's being aggressive for a lack of a reason. It also splits up the verse stanzas really nicely because it's satisfying, because, you know, usually with a question you get an answer, and he repeated like the question at the start of like 2 of the lines and the answers for like that third one. You know, it's good. It's good stuff. We've got track number 10 now, Sending the Signs, which we'll continue with. It's been a great album so far, for sure.
Choze. No surrender.
You're sending me the signs. You're sending me the signs. You're sending me the signs.
Huge power to those kids, man.
Videos on these streets, every man from the cell trying to feed that appetite by all means. Wolverines, there were X-Men, any loose brothers, cowboys or police. A war zone disturbing the peace by rugrats using toys to rob keys. Don't chill when they let off the pumpy, plans to avoid this hell in one piece. As a self-contained renegade that had moments overshadowed, masquerade, living in a can full of coke. Green leaf was on your crotch where the fiends could smoke. Paranoid of the po-po, 4-shot undies rolling up in a 4x4 ready to take off. Lock jaws, cause we don't whistle blowing up front door.
I mean, like, it's a risk. It's a risk having an alternate vocal line when you've got the main rapped parts there. But because we had that main, you know, that line about the signs from the clean singer there, and that it's got a really nice filtered tone to it. It almost doesn't compete with what Choze is rapping because you already know what it's about. So even if it's chopped or it just gets played straight through, you're like, you know, I already heard that, so I'll focus on the story that's being told in the verse. A huge amounts of power with the bass, the kick, the drum kit, as well as those kind of almost square wave-ish kind of synths that we had in the background. Yeah.
Made in this man out an author. Never snitched, but I told the truth when I barred on pirate radio or cypher. Cause I was raised to never tell tales. Place grinders underneath or in cells. Rat traps, bone shells. Any predicament that placed me in row hell. Like Bible say, you have one chance to give. All your knowledge plus talent that funds any envy that bullshit you to quit. The going gets tough, but it builds up your bricks. That's why we read the signs and always take notes when we feel the heat up.
I mean, I love the lower octave modulation of the vocals as well. It just adds a sense of heft in that low end that isn't necessarily being met by the 808 or whatever is going on there. Basically, because the bass is so well controlled with the frequent filtering and EQing and stuff like that, you know, you can have that extra bit of low end in the vocals and it not interfere or cause any resonances, especially if it's notched well. But yeah, it's not like we haven't had vocal modulation before in this album, but it just stands out there as a nice halfway point because we've already had like the intro melody line, the vocals, you've sent me the signs. So I've got to add a new kind of spanner in the mix to keep the listener engaged.
Grimy estates, neglected by the government frustrates. Deep learning, hard earning, still yearning, but churning any peak times in our face. Cause it gets real sticky, icky. The wall can turn dead when it gets real busy. The Mac on the milli,
and a new concept there again.
That's why my pen game's on point. I see. It's hard, it's hard, it's hard. It's a hard knock life tested by these arrogant two-faced half-hearted sprites that love to use any tactics room what God brings stormed in this pipeline. That's why gas suits, pocket knives bring terror to the streets like a purge light. No remorse, bye-bye, then we have to roll up at 9-9. Morning over, a blessed brother, high prospects of becoming an ill figure. Now another tombstone degrades, caused by another trigger happy, waste of space. What's wrong with the picnics of today? No guidance produce criminal accolades, free strikes, gun trades, listen to the most high, I must say. Every time. So many signs in life. Careful, wishful all the time. emotions. Predicted the last days have to expose this illness. Bad breeds inflicted with hate. Chips on the shoulder encourage the dark ways. Sex are upset in this plague. London City, a place where the man is at stake. That's why I thank God for making me a lyrical passionist in each and every stage. Like the Bible says, you have one chance to give all your knowledge plus talent that funds any envy that forces you to quit. The going gets tough, but it builds up your bricks. That's why we read the signs and always take notes when we feel they eat up on this shit.
I just want to have another run through the lyrics and just kind of double check things before we move forward. Okay, so after listening through the track again, just to clarify a few things, I think that sending the signs is about, it talks about life, you know, like going up and like the work that Choze has done on his craft, talks about where he came up and like looking for the signs in life to see that things are going to work out or taking the opportunities that are presented so that you can make the most out of things in advance and where you are at. I think it's as a general message, it's more sort of discussing how we can't take things for granted, so we should do the best to ensure that whatever we are offered, we definitely take note of those signs. And you know, he's talking about, I think he talked about like going on pirate radio and stuff like that as well, of the other opportunities he's been involved with. And there were some more references to the spirituality stuff, like the Bible and all that, which I assume is important to Choze. And that's, you know, it's interesting. It's nice to get to know Choze a bit more and understand parts from him better. You know, you kind of want that in an album. If the person is still an enigma after they open up this much, something's gone horribly wrong. I think, though, that the composition being relatively minimalist was a smart idea. We had a nice tone with the kits, especially in the build section going back into the next verse drop with the sending the signs part. But I think that all we really needed was, again, the bass, those trap elements, those drill elements with the percussion, and the wow, 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 and those occasional bum, 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 bum kind of counter rhythms and the sequences with the strings we had. There was enough. We didn't need to overdo the layering of this. The track was 3 minutes 10 and it was well spent. But then finally, we've got track number 11, titled You, featuring Choze and Mum.
Yeah. This one right here, only dedicate to one person, and that's you.
Really pretty with the keys, bass, and drums.
Only one person, believe that. Thank you.
Lots of room for the vocals.
Hammer back from day one, weather detention, the low funds. You're my ride or die queen, my one. Hit the stash when the 5-0 rocked up. Never snitch on your own kind, always on point when the cops lied. Rosa Parks will be proud of your vibe, cause you held it down like in the rest time. Never rattled, never flaked, fully boss. After Jakes with their odds conniving ways to make me a statistic, to blacklist my aims. Had high prospects of making me a church bring, but instead I chose to become a hustling wordsmith that was spun arenas when they're chanting my name. Had the pressure resting on both your shoulders, but still battling all types of bailiffs that wanna confiscate our assets, the householder. Worked too damn hard for us to be evicted, shifted, drifted, believe that family's thicker than copper, applied that to the rules on your rota. Told off many schools that had many doubts, or predicted that your son's a failure, not gifted. Guess who's laughing now? The queen is. My African empress never came empty. Make sure my belly was full, had plenty of banku fufu, drill of rice, okra stew.
I mean, it's like, we'll go back a little bit. I don't want to interrupt this track too much. I just appreciate how the last track in this album is a tribute to his mom. I think it's beautiful, man. It's a really nice way to end it. Showing that gratitude there and talking about his childhood. It's not something that is unnecessarily uncommon. I've heard reviewed other albums before where they've shown, you know, especially to mothers, they've shown gratitude to their mothers for what happened there. But yeah, I think it's gorgeous. Genuinely, you know. Nice way to finish things.
My sister, attitude-wise very polite, but had a short temper. One backhand to wipe out a contender. A real go-getter from Jan to December. Best believe you're a G, you achieve more than you wish for. You define a saint, my hero. Try to school me, your background and lingo. Never had a penny to your name, but still was valued as another one Ghanaian. A real Rambo, Capo, Pablo. Damn, you work too hard for the macro. With no eyes closed, broken relations, no backbone. don't, but still was afloat of this hellhole. Deserve all the praise and merits that a single mother could ask for. You deserve more, putting up with that preaching demon that ran off with a church whore. Bounce back with a Lord's sword, brush off your shoulders, a strong core. You set examples we pray for, my idol, for sure. That's why I dedicate my whole life to this queen that deserves every bling. 5-star treatments without a think. Red carpet service, swaggering. Paid off trips, pure pampering. No doubts in my mind, especially when I recap all the moments you put your foot down on that sewing machine sheen. To put clothes on our back, feed our appetite, play 2 roles without a dad. Giving us real grace, build our confidence, showing no fear like fly stacks. Wrapping our wounds, always digging real deep. Even place Marion on the map, sending money overseas. Crepes and blankets, aiming to invest and expand. That's when we give thanks, worship the ground that you walk on. And sands, brag to our peeps, anything is possible. Living in these streets of bedpans, hopes in the mist, don't lose a grip. Real recognize real, that stands. Focus more, never get whipped. Store that info, never get shift. Future's bright, choose that light, don't ever give in. At peak times, your time's really ticking. Take deep strides, even that sinning. Rise from the prize, those lines came to light when you set that blueprint in place. Without your methods, I wouldn't have a clue. So I wanna say from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Grace, your repeat is there.
Thank you so much, my son. I pray for you every day. That God richly bless you, open doors for you every day of your life, strengthens you, and give you your high desire to work very hard so that they can achieve their goal. And God is doing His work now, I can see. And if my children, be successful than me, I prefer that. Yeah, I pray that. And every parent wants their children to be higher than them. I pray for you every blessed day. In Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
I think that's wonderful, man. It's very rare that you actually get like the parent in the recording now.
Thank you for listening to this remarkable message made by the one they call Choze. I'm John Sykes, and from everyone here, take care and God bless.
Wonderful. It's nice to get signed off on an album. I don't think I've had that before, so that's dope. Actually, no, I have, but I like the way this was done. And just before we get into the conclusion section of the review, because I know this video is a long one, I don't really have a lot to say about this track. You know, it was clearly through composed. It was more about the story that was being told up until the 3-minute mark, where you had... It was basically the reasons why Choze was thankful for his mom, bringing him up and raising him and, you know, getting on that sewing machine and such like that to be able to put them through and everything. I think that the through composed nature of it combined with the you know, that's a nice way to reiterate what this is about. It's very clear, you know. I think having mom as a featured artist is a smart thing as well there, because it basically encourages the listener to automatically assume it's about his mom, which is good. I think the way it was wrapped, the flow with the clarity of the performance there, the story that was told there was charming and loving, and it seemed very sincere. And I think that his mom, I can understand why his mom is so proud of him. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this album from an act named Choze, titled D.I.Y. Look, usually I kind of prattle on a bit with these conclusions, and I know this video has been a long one, so I will try to keep it relatively succinct. You know, what I think this track is about, D.I.Y, I think it's about Choze talking about his journey through his childhood, such as with the track You talking about his mother, but also another album, you know, another songs within this piece. You know, talking about the importance of getting to where you are in your life and making the best effort you can to sort of do it on your own, because you can do that. I think it's meant in part to not only show a bit more of what Choze is about and let you into his world, but he's also simultaneously trying to communicate that you can have that too. And I think that that is a really beautiful thing. It's not a very easy thing or a common thing to do, to simultaneously have an album about yourself but also make it beneficial to others. But we've done that here, and I think it comes across as I've said in this review plenty of times, sincere, authentic. It seems like he really cares about the music that he's releasing, He cares about the people that hear it. And I think he cares, or at the very least, he seems to care about the belief he has that people can do it if they continue to work at it. And given the story he's told of himself as a person, you know, growing up in a situation where there was struggle, you know, it was difficult. School wasn't necessarily easy, but he had a go-getter attitude to it, and he made the most of his situation. And even though there were mistakes that were made along the way, such as the ones mentioned in I Apologise, we eventually got to the track, you know, what Badderz, where we discussed that we were finally making it, ready to take on the world, you know, talking about how other people aren't necessarily built for this, you know, and built for this, and, you know, nothing to lose, how we've got nothing to lose. We need to just, we need to try and get out of the situation we're in and climb up and find a point where maybe there's social revolution or something like that to fix the problems we have. But all in all, there were a lot of really interesting topics discussed within this. I should also note as well, initially, I was going to show 2 videos in this for Badderz as well as Nothing to Lose. And while I did show the video for Badderz, I think Nothing Else has a YouTube video as well. So if you enjoyed the quality of the first music video, please do go check out the Nothing to Lose music video on Choze's YouTube page. I'm glad I showed the initial one though, that was good. But I'm happy with this review. I think, or rather this album, I'm hoping I'm going to be happy with this review by the time I'm done. The vocal performance from Choze was fantastic. I think the stories that were told there were great, and there was never a point where I was confused about the delivery, aside from a minor situation with I Apologise, where I couldn't really tell which side or whether it was both that we were playing with regards to the tone of how I would say in the I Apologise bit. Not that I personally have an issue with it, I don't mind, it's just me being transparent. I think that with this album, we have a musician where they clearly can rap. They clearly have experience on the mic. They are able to tell, they've got a great with words, and they are able to flow and spit bars in a way where I see it as commercial grade. It's intelligent, creative language that's very, you know, it invokes really intense imagery in some situations, especially. I think, what was it? Spray from the heart and spit from the chest or something like that along those lines there, where like you need to basically be open with your feelings and tell people about it. But I think that this is stuff that a lot of people can really benefit and learn from. And I think that you really need to be rapping at Choze's level to be able to get anywhere in the music industry nowadays. And I mean that sincerely. There's just so much competition with rap and hip hop. Even though I like trap and sort of like, I think, because again, I think this is kind of drill stuff that we were looking at here. It was wonderful. Some of it anyways. Like it was wonderful. We have a clear vocal technique, confident in our head and chest voice, though we didn't do a lot of singing. We did have some parts that were sung, like as, you know, like, and you're sending me the signs or something like that. There was like clean vocal takes over there. And there are other vocal chops, you know, like, and that almost sounded like instrumental layers as we went along. And we also had, you know, collaborators like Corpz, Barrington Levy, LionArt, Skibadee, Shai Sevin, as well as Mom near the end. And they had their own styles that they incorporated into what Choze was doing, and I think that that was well handled there. Each track was unique. We worked with musicians who were also competent to what they did, and it was greater than the sum of the individual parts. You know, like it was good. I don't think there was a weak performance within this track vocally. We were clear and articulate and told the stories well, and 99.99% of the time I could understand what was going on, why we were saying things the way we were. And there was lots arranged there rhythmically as well with the various sections there. Some tracks were through composed, some tracks had the traditional ABA structure there. But regardless of what we had, we also had the spoken parts, such as in I Apologise. So, as well as the voiceover lines in the intro and outro parts and other things, it was just a lot to appreciate there. The vocals were tremendous. They are the focal point of this specific type of music especially, and we nailed them. But if we look at the album itself, with tracks between, you know, 2 to 4 minutes, we not only handled the short form tracks well, where we had like verses and choruses and maybe sort of like had quick transitions between them, we also had just, we really made the most of the bigger real estate we had with tracks like, again, You, where we had 2 or 3 minutes worth of Choze rapping and then the mom kind of talking on the phone at the end there. with D.I.Y, like longer form there, like allowing, we had Shai Sevin with their clean vocals, I think, at the end of D.I.Y, if I'm not mistaken. They were very pretty. It was nice to have that mid to higher range coloration there in the mix. But whether we had the traditional verse chorus structure or we were doing through composed stuff, there was absolutely no filler. There were it was basically just either you had instrumental breaks there, some interludes, verses, or choruses. You didn't have any solo sections from the backing instruments as far as I could tell there, but that doesn't mean that we were lacking in regards to the range of instruments we had in this album, because we had a lot, man. We had a lot of different elements there. Like, the dominant parts were the basses, the drums, the synth parts. We also had lots of some brass and string parts, you know. We maybe even had, like, there were like bells there and bits of foley we had as well. You know, there were a lot of different ingredients. If I talk about a few of the ones I really appreciated, I think that the percussion was a highlight for me, the groove of it. Not only how it was in sync with a lot of the vocal bits there, but provided a nice movement forward at a range of different tempos there that I could appreciate. I also like the fact that we didn't have the drums the entire time. We allowed some parts to float, like in the last quarter of every 4 bars or like every 8 bars. Just let the vocals kind of sit on top there. We weren't too quick to throw in the side chaining there. We even had different sounding drum kits occasionally where we'd have like the acoustic parts and then we'd like bring in some more sampled stuff, which was dope. And I think that, yeah, in general, there were lots of different grooves with the 8th triplets and 16th parts with the different hi-hat kick snare grooves alongside very, very occasional fills, but basically it was more focused on those 3 main parts of the kit there, and that makes sense for the style of music we're working with. But in addition to that, I think the bass lines, they were thick and heavy. There were some different sounds that I did dig and kind of work with. There were some interesting sounding, like in drug music, there were some really fantastic heavy, chunky synth sounds there that just rose and had nice bits of modulation there going on. They were interesting in their construction. A lot of it was the 808s though. They sat in that mid to low range really well, filled it up nicely, and were a nice foil to the kit without submerging the rest of the mix within it. There was great control over those elements, and I think part of what allowed those 808s to work was the simplicity of a lot of the harmonies there. We had some extensions occasionally, but we typically sat within the major and minor triads there. We maybe had some interesting intervals caused by the variations of the different synth parts or different other leads there, brass or strings or whatever, plucks or longer notes there within themselves. But we basically tried, I think, to make it more of a situation where it was easy to kind of digest what was going on with the harmonies and the bass lines, etc., so that we didn't get distracted by those too much. There was already a lot of complexity with some of the vocal parts, and the range stuff going on. There was very little filler with the way the vocals were phrased throughout. There's lots of transitions between sections and stuff like that. So I think that if the instrumental parts had been busier than they were, with either 8th or 16th note arpeggiators or, you know, like too many layers included, I just think it would have just been too much. We had some nice sub layering with various bell and other bits of foley there, some risers occasionally, but it was good. We had, again, like, I don't think there were any weak parts instrumentally. The themes and motifs from the various tracks were satisfying. We had a wide variety of instruments that came together in certain points to make an album that was simultaneously stylistically cohesive, not just because of Choze, but also some of the textures we were using were consistent across the tracks. But I think also what we had going on was just the fact that we never had any atypically major stuff. It was mostly ominous and intense and a little bit lucid occasionally. It was meant to inspire you and be heavy and almost cinematic, but we never really wanted to go beyond calling it what it was, which is basically just a really epic sounding album. We wanted a huge kind of aura and intense presence to it with it, and I just don't think that we could have gotten any brighter with a lot of the themes we had here. I think maybe it would have detracted or been just distracting for the listener. Maybe that's why that choice was made there with the composition and the themes. But all in all, it kind of sounded like someone who went through struggle but managed to come out the top. They might not be exactly where they want to be yet, but they're climbing and they're well on their way there. That's what I got from the themes within each of the tracks as a whole and individually. But, you know, aside from that, The studio recording, mixing, and mastering with all that considered was spectacular. Thoroughly stoked the level of studio production. It's commercial grade there. The vocal processing combined with the various other takes there, the backing vocals, the repeaters, parts on the side going backwards and forwards, etc. The vocal chops and filtering, alongside the plethora of other instruments within the arrangement, is stunning. And ultimately, it was just really, it was scintillating. Invigorated hearing the very first track, Badderz, and then moving through because the production quality is just on point. And it's really important these days. There's just really no excuse unless you're someone who's starting out. But with what I understand about Choze, they've been doing this for a little while, and they definitely are at the point I think they should be. And it's gonna be cool to see what they do next. Genuinely, you know, I hope they release more music like this and that they continue to grow, as it's very positive. Things were nice and wide in the stereo field, nicely filtered and notched within the frequency spectrum there, with things kind of sitting in places where they needed to be, with a very little arguing between various layers there, with no resonant frequencies. There was nice bits of filtering as well with some sections, like the voiceover work was nice and clear and sounded like like an actual radio disc jockey or something like that. But it's also, how do I describe it? When things were filtered, they sounded either like a radio thing or there's a bit of vinyl kind of scratch or something like that. And there were little bits of nostalgia invoked and little touches and posts that really made it kind of sparkle. It's attention to detail like that, which is really important. And I think, you know, with the fact that it had dynamic range, so things weren't the same loudness all the time, there was variety between them, things came down and up, not just in the arrangement and within the album as a whole. But with it still being nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression and limiting being handled exceptionally well. It's just a really positive first impression of Choze's work. So congratulations to Choze and everyone else that's been involved in this album, and thank you very much for watching my review of this album from Choze, titled D.I.Y, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show them some love via the various social medias and a Spotify page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they either help more than ever thought of crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands Out.